Funny this, isn't it? So yeah, I'm Zoon van snooK. Many of you know me as Alec. Some of you call me Alex, which is it's wrong. I shouldn't get too pissy. It is only one letter difference, but try telling that to Sandra Bullock. Well, because if you swap the second letter for an O, it's Sandra. Okay, so welcome to my bedroom. This is where the magic happens, which is to say it's where I saw people in half. Phil Collins is not the only thing I've got in common with Patrick Bateman. So, did you like the test card? Johnny Paul Ryder made that for me. Yeah. Now, there's something interesting. This is the original test card. It's called Test Card F. And this is a 1967 photograph of Carol Hersey, who went to Goliath Theatre School and became Britain's foremost scary clown. I don't know who that is on the left, but it's by the by really, isn't it? So, I hope you're all staying safe. The last time I saw this many face masks and high vis, I nearly chewed a hole in my face listening to a guy called Gerald. Not the band, a guy called Gerald. Gerald was the name of the guy I got the pingers off. Joking, I'm joking. Disclaimer. Don't forget. Alright? Just remember poor old Zammo. So, music fans. I was going to start with a joke about Glenn Miller, but I was afraid it wouldn't land. Because, well, no, Glenn Miller was like a swinger, a big band leader now. Who was missing, presumed dead, when the aeroplane that he was on disappeared. Which is why I was afraid it wouldn't... One of these days someone's going to get that and we shall be married. But for now the search continues. For a wife, I mean, not for Glenn Miller. They called that off years ago. Okay, so let's get on with why we're here. So, this is about my new album, Separación. So in 2018, I travelled around South America, South and Central America, collecting field recordings for what I was pretty sure would become another album, because some of you might know that my previous album was built around field recordings that I took in Iceland when I was there. So the album took 2 years to sort of conception and writing and recording, and then finishing and producing and getting it ready. And each song individually and the whole album as a whole is based around different ideas of separation, like breakdowns of relationships and mortality, friendship, colonialism, independence, geology, social, political bits and pieces. So I took the field recordings, came back to the UK, hired a room with a grand piano, Owen sorted out, and then I wrote songs over the melody and rhythm of the field recordings that I took while I was there. So yeah, we were in like Peru, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, etc, etc. And luckily Low Recordings, one of my favourite labels before I was on them, which is why I tried to get on them in the first place, released loads of my favourite people like Red Snapper, Fortet, Aphex Twin, Susumu Yokota, Brian Eno, so I was really happy that they liked it enough to put it out. So just introduce the bosses. So this is John Ty. That's him on the right, I think. And this one is Gavin O'Shea. If you can see that there. Now he's a very willful man, is Gav. And I said to him, look, Gav, this is a lockdown. You cannot go dogging. He said, watch me. Turns out the police were watching him. No, I better clear that up. There's nothing to do with dogging. That is Gav being manhandled at last year's Extinction Rebellion. Remember when we thought it was a climate that was going to wipe us out? Those are the days, isn't it? Okay, so let's talk about. Let's move on to the song. So the first song, you're going to play. I'm going to do a playback, high quality. Hopefully you've got decent speakers. The first track on the album is called the coral and the hummingbird, and that relates to two animal spirit totems. So I was travelling, after I left Barcelona, I was travelling around India and Sri Lanka first, and I was chatting to an old friend of mine that we'd been separated for like 20 years, and which was great. Little backstory, she was my first love. It's the first person that I was ever like completely besotted with. We were chatting, which is great, but I guess I got a little bit confused around that time. I might have fallen in love with her again. I'm not sure. Maybe I did. I don't know. But at that point, my head and heart were in two very separate places. But we're friends now, which is great. But that's the power that first loves can wield. So the first song, the field recording, was taken in Guatapé, which is called El Pueblo Más Colorido del Mundo, the most colourful city in the world, for probably, hopefully obvious reasons. There, and it's Guatapé is about 80 kilometres outside Medellin. And the field recording that you'll hear in the background is of a little band playing, and I've written the song around that. So we're going to listen to the first song. This is called The Coral and the Hummingbird. So the second song on the album is called Zócalo, and this was taken, the field recording was taken in Mexico City, in Zócalo Square. So at the end of the song you'll hear it's of an organ grinder, and it's just on the outside of the square there. And the idea of separation is that from a certain point near Zócalo Square you can see three separate eras of you know, sort of Mexican inverted commas architecture. You've got like the pre-Columbian, you've got the colonial, and then you've got the modern day architecture there. Yeah, so while I was there in Mexico, I went to see one of the natural wonders of the world, which is Pericutine. It's like an extinct volcano, and I had to go 4 hours outside Mexico City in order to get to a little town in which I had to get a bus and then get a horse for hours to get there. And this little town that I first stayed in, Uruapan, I went to a bar, and he said, "Oh, I don't really see many tourists around here." I said, "Oh, why?" He said, "Because of all the beheadings." I said, "Oh," but I had a lovely time, I've got to be honest. Alright, so this is another song. This is Zocalo. Okay, hello, we're back. So that was the second song. So the shopping restrictions have been lifted here. You can fill up with whatever you want now. These are the standard issue trolleys that we've been given, which is, I mean, that's more than enough for me. I can get about 600 loose mung beans in there. A little trick for you: you have to line the bottom and the sides with cardboard. Learned that off a homeless friend. So don't write them off. A lot can be learned. So let's do a competition, and this is in association with Friendly Records in Bristol. Yeah, friendly. So while I was travelling, I had my Friendly Records bag, and I was putting them in places and making Friendly Records genres. So for example, this one would be rock. Okay, and then this one would be post-rock. Okay. So I think hopefully we've got what what we need to do with this one. Okay, so hopefully we got that friendly genre. Alright, let's move on to the next song. The next song is called Madre, which most of you probably know is Spanish for mother. So the field recording here was taken in Santiago, and it was at the Museum of Memory and Human Rights. Yeah, so this is in Chile. There's the wall there, and that's a picture of like all the people that disappeared under the Pinochet regime. And the field recording you'll hear is of a funeral rites song in Guatemala, because it is, it's about all the different atrocities, the Guatemalan genocide and everything in the Civil War. So that's the field recording. As for the music, the title Madre, when I was back in Bristol, my mum was poorly. She was in and out of hospital a lot, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. And, why she kept going in and out. None of us did. And so, I was writing the album, sort of that was at the backdrop. Sadly, we lost her a few months after that, which she was poorly, but I wasn't expecting. Nobody really expects it, do they? Luckily, she got a chance to hear the two singles from the album. She didn't hear this one, but it's fine. She heard the singles, that's the main thing. So let's play that song. It's called Madre. Okay, here we go. I think if we learned anything there, it's to take photographs in landscape. So that was Madre. So as I was saying, around the time I was writing the album, I was suffering. My mental health wasn't the greatest, for lots of different reasons. As some of you will know, men's mental health has taken a bit of a decline over the last wee while. And a terrifying statistic is that we lose more men under the age of 50 in the UK to suicide, more than cancer and road traffic accidents, which is crazy. It's just nuts. So basically men aren't talking. Now, a friend of mine called Gavin and his pals have set up a little group, called Talk Club. Now you can find this on Facebook or online. This is their website. It started locally, but it's now gone global, which is great. And as you can see there, it's a club for men's mental health. And guys meet up and they talk about their, stuff that's going on and how they're feeling that day, and just something which is needed, and it has been needed for a long time. So I urge you to check that out. And Gav's got a charity single for Talk Club, Soul to Save. That's coming out in May. Should we have a quick Q&A? Let's see what's coming. Now, I've got to be honest, I had one from in the week which I need to address. One from Kim Skinner, and it says, how do you stop your bubble and squeak? Stick into the pan. And for me, that would be a couple of squirts of aerosol brine in the pan before you put it in, and that should work a treat. I must say, it won't work out of a jar. Don't be pouring it in out of a jar. This isn't the 20th century. Oh, hang on. Hello. Hang on. Sorry, this is my solicitor. I'm gonna have to take this. I'm gonna have to unplug it. All right. Hello, Chris. Yeah, how's it going? No, I was just in the middle of something. I'm doing that launch, aren't I? No, I've unplugged it. They can't hear anything. It's all right. So have you spoken to the Claderman estate? What are they saying? Well, I've told everyone I've written it. I didn't think they'd spot it, did I? It's a friggin' B-side album. And they only released it in Bulgaria. Okay. Hang on, mate. Hang on. It's getting a thing on my feed. You must be using your laptop microphone. We can still hear you. Hang on, Chris. I've got to go. Yeah, I'll call you back. One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh. So... Okay, let's move on. The next song is called Lago, which is lake in English. So the field recording here is of a horse walking along the Bolivian side of Lake Titicaca, which is the highest navigable body of water on the planet. So yeah, it's the recordings of a horse, and I got told off for walking too close because I was behind the horse and I was too close to its anus, and I got told off by the rider. I mean, he's right. I know that. They'll kick a hole in your throat, a horse. Like a backstreet tracheotomy. Let's listen to that song. This is Lago. was Largo. You might have noticed that there's a bit of an ordering thing there. It's right there, and it's right now on the, it's right there. Right, okay, let's do round 2 of the competition, shall we? Should be alright with that one, I think. Okay, let's do a Q&A. I'm just looking over here. One from Johnny Paul. What microphones did you use whilst recording the album? Let me just give you... Alright, so... it's Uncle Owen, look. My recording engineer. That's me in many ways. Yeah, so this is the studio setup. So the question was, what microphones did we use in the studio? Now I apologise, this is going to get a little bit techie. So for all you gear heads out there, all you nerds, this is for you. So the microphones we used 2 of those like chalk ice ones. You know, they're like a it's like a chalk ice but with a flat edge. Like a coffin for a mouse, but if the mouse was fatter than it was long. Do you know what I mean? You know the ones I mean? And if they could afford such an elaborate casket. So we had 2 of those. And you know they're like the silver lollipops? Like it's kind of like it's like a cage, isn't it? It's like a cage dome over the top of it. It's like the now you've seen them that in Polish nightclubs. That we didn't use any of them in the end. Then we had 2 those thin black like a whiteboard marker pen. There was 2 of those in the end, and we faced them away from each other, like as if one had caught the other one cheating. And then there was one in the corner of a completely different room. It was in a different part of the building, and that was like a big. It's like a cheap men's deodorant. Not like a Paco Rabanne, you know. I'm not Ed Sheeran. More like a denim or a high karate. It was so that was the mics. Coming out of the bottom of each mic was like a rubbery. It's like a rubber string, and they went to a box, like an electric box. And then on the other side they had the buttons. They got, but not like that. They're different. And you can touch them and turn them. You could turn it to the left. But what was interesting was that they went the other way. They also went to the right. And then the electric box was connected to like a clam phone, like a big clam phone, and that was where Owen was. And it opens and closes, but we kept it open a lot of the time, and that was Owen's job to make sure that it stayed up, that it stayed open, and then that was in turn that was collecting what I was doing in the end, and I was sitting there by the. You know, well, it's like a keyboard, I suppose, and the whole top comes out, like you can like free it from its moorings, which made loud and quiet sounds, and then it was kind of, you know, all of it was kind of relative to what I was touching, which was like standard. Kind of, you know, well, they were black and white. I mean, it's a standard kind of setup with it all, and that's basically how we recorded the album. Sorry to get all techie and, you know, brain freeze there. So let's come back so everyone else can understand. So song 5 is Rocinha. Now this one is a field recording of when I was in Brazil, in Rio, and there was a guy taking me around Rocinha favela, which is the largest favela in South America. And it's basically dialogue. It is Carlos talking about the social disparity within Rio of those, you know, who've got money and who haven't, and how, you know, the government controls their paychecks, etc. But what I love about this one is his last sentence. He just pulls it all back and just leaves you with a little bit of positivity. So I'll play the song. It's a bit shorter, and I'll show you some photos of the favela. So this is Rocinha.
And if you ask, like, Carlos, as you know so much, why don't you talk to the people here? My people is, I speak their voices, but actually they have no dreams to change no more because they are controlled by social chains. Listen up, I told you in the car that 20 years ago, Brazil was the country number 40. Now Brazil is the country number 8. It means that we progressed 32 points. So, instead of why don't they give me money to buy my food, and why they don't raise up my salary proportionally to 149 reals, which is nothing. Because if they do so, I can decide how to spend my money. If I have to face a long line in the federal bank with all my documents to receive a check that's already under my name, they are doing me a favor. So these people never open their mouth. When you see like protests in Brazil have nothing to do with the poor ones. Poor people, they protest, they lose the money to buy food. So, no matter what, nobody want to listen to me here, you know? So, outsiders are happy, Brazil's doing very well, insiders are happy, social checks are doing very well. I'm the only one that suffers. But I'm so optimistic. Only education can change it. Okay?
Oh, Carlos, bless him. Beautiful man. Yeah, so that was the favela in Rio, which was pretty inspiring. Right, let's have a look on Twitter. At the Parson's Nose, can you talk us through the chords in that last tune? Well, when that came in, I'm going to presume that was Lago. Okay, so this is my book of chords. So that last, where are we? Lago. So we got, it starts with an E minor 7 flat 5, then goes to G, capital 9, epsilon, epsilon, repeat. Then the next section, which in the business we call the chorus, it starts with a B demolished and then moves fairly listlessly towards an augmented dodecahedron, I think that is. Sounds like it anyway. So, I mean, that's my process. That's the kind of chords you'll find with me. So let's do a little question on Twitter. What is your favourite song featuring the chord E minor 7 flat 5? Okay, a little plug for if you like electronic music. This album is no electronic. My first two albums are mostly, electronic and acoustic instruments, all chopped up and glitched up and stuff with found sound. This one isn't, as you can hear, it's just a piano and field recordings and strings. But I used to do a radio show for Bloop at Bloop.London, who are a great little online radio station, digital radio station. And the show was called Oddtronica. Zoon van snooK presents Oddtronica, and there are 30 shows, You can't see because I've made it small, but each one had a special guest selector who picked 3 to 5 tunes, and I interviewed them, and I put them in a show, and I had like some of my favourite artists are on there: Paul Hartnell of Orbital, Ulrich Schnag's Rival Consoles, Plaid, Mira Kalix, DJ Food, Boca 45, Beak, and they're all up on my SoundCloud page. You can find, or on Bloop, and then we're going to try and get them available as podcasts on iTunes soon. So it's a 2-hour show, and it's all brand new experimental electronic music. So yeah, if you like that, Oddtronica. Right, okay, move on. So track number 6, it's a scratchy recording of me playing the mandolin when I was in Colombia. So I was in Bogota for a little while. I had a gun shoved in my back whilst I was there. My own fault for being alone in the city centre after midnight. In the rain. I kind of had that coming, but yeah, it's surprising how much bravery you can find when you've had a skinful. Anyway, it was pretty scary, so I got out of Dodge the next day, and I went up into the hills to teach a couple English. And what the story that I take away from this is when the guy came to pick me up to drive me sort of an hour outside Bogota to Subachoque, which is the name of the song. He spent an hour basically vehemently saying how shit cats were and that they destroy the flora and fauna, etc. I was like, okay, fair enough, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And then I did a one-on-one class with his partner, his wife, and she spent about 20 minutes crying her eyes out saying how her 2 babies, her 2 cats, had both gone missing on the same day. Now, I haven't had any formal training in the criminal investigation department, but if I were looking for a possible suspect, I would know where to start there. I don't think Columbo would lose much sleep over that one. So this is next song, Subachoque, and it's me on the mandolin. Mandolin? No, ukulele. Sorry, ukulele, not mandolin. I don't play the mandolin or the ukulele, as you'll hear. But it's just ukulele and voice. So I'll play it and then I'll show you the photos. Here we go. In a room. Okay, so that was Subachoque in Colombia. Let's have the third round of the competition, shall we? Remember, friendly records genres. Oh, I like this one. I liked that one. That's shoegaze. Got one. We got an answer on Twitter from what's your favourite song with E-7 flat 5? And this is at Skepta. He says, mine would have to be Breeze Sniffer by Pratt Mouse, which was only available as a tiny limited edition answer machine cassette. Okay, better get on Discogs for that one, guys. We could do a question actually from Twitter. What we got? Do you use both hands? And that is from @TheRealIRA. Glad to see they've still got a sense of humour. Actually, unless that's the real Ira, in which case, who's Ira, and why is she so important that people are trying to impersonate her? Okay, let's move on to song number 7. This is called Selva, and the field recording was taken in the Peruvian Andes, and you'll hear it. It's of the indigenous rubber frogs of the Peruvian Andes. Why they're called rubber frogs, I don't know. Perhaps the locals use them to correct their homework, or perhaps they're used as a kind of contraceptive. I know I use a fistful of amphibians to destimulate myself, oftentimes. So this is Selva, and I'll give you the photo now. Rubber frogs, you could probably hear that there. Right, okay, so I'm going to post the link after because I need to copy and paste it, but I've got 3 free MP3s for you. The first one is an early version of that song. I'll give you this link, don't worry. We've got 3 free MP3s. The first one is an early version of Selva, which is called Saints Preserve, and it's got dialogue in the background of Bristolians talking about a memorial garden that got vandalised, which is dark, and I like it. So that was an early version. You can have that. You can have that for nothing. I've got somebody over on Twitter who sent me a fun fact. It seems to be Pat the Bomber Roach. It seems to be an official Pat the Bomber Roach website. And they go on to say, contrary to popular belief, Pat the Bomber Roach had never built an improvised explosive device in his life, but was in fact banned from every public swimming pool in the Warwickshire area. Oh, I see. He used to have his bath filled with chlorine during the summer holidays in order to practice the illicit move, and had shattered both his knees. Apparently on the set of Auf Wiedersehen Pet, he used to have to drag himself around on a reinforced skateboard, which is why you never see him filmed from the waist down. That's good to know. Thanks, guys. Okay, so song number 8 is Cusco. Now, this is a video premiere. No one has seen this video yet. It's only just come in. This is the first single, and Sam Wisternoff in Bristol, who's also SJ Easel, has made the video. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the story. So Cusco is named after the former Incan capital in Peru, and the field recordings of a Quechua tribal ceremony that we witnessed in the centre there. And I guess the idea of separation is about, you know, the indigenous people were separated from their land and their cultural traditions and their family during the Spanish conquest. Now I just want to show you the Incan walls. That's in Cusco, and that is what the artwork is based on, which is a beautiful painting by a Spanish artist called Antonio Ogallar. Doesn't have a website, but you can find him out. I'll put the link to his Instagram perhaps there. Right, okay, now this is the exclusive premiere video of the first single, Cusco. This virus has got me thinking about the world and how we look out for one another. People are sharing masks. People are offering to help the most vulnerable. But I'm reading after the virus there's going to be like a global food shortage. But people in the UK, Britain, one of the richest countries in the world, are already using food banks. And yet I still keep hearing about these disdainful people who keep pouring buckets of corn everywhere. Which, if anybody plays fast and loose with my green giant, there'll be murders. Okay, so let's just go to the Q&A. So Orten asked what was the most inspiring place on the trip, and that would have to be Peru, just because it was probably the most indigenous feeling place that we went to. Hannah asked what was my favourite song on the album. I think it's Cusco, because of that end string section. I'd not written and arranged strings like that before. And thanks to Hannah Johns for deciphering my terrible scoring. She did brilliantly. So yeah, okay, so we're going to move on to track 9. This song is called Dead Woman's Pass, and it's named after the middle section of the Inca Trail, which is the highest point of the Inca Trail, and it separates the two halves. And it's so called Dead Woman's Pass because from the bottom it looks like a woman on her back. The mountainous thing looks like a woman on her back. And the field recording is of a guy playing a quena, which is like a Quechuan flute. You come down the other side and he was there and he was playing it, and I gave him some money and I recorded it. So this song is called Dead Woman's Pass.
Poco tips? Oh, it's okay. Thank you very much.
I've changed. I've changed into my Zoon van snooK pajamas. Excuse me, my eyes are up here. So let's talk merchandise. I've got these pajamas. Well, I've got this. Well, I've got one, which is mine. So I haven't got them. But what I have got is this, the new line. And some of you are thinking, he's got a face mask. It's not a face mask. It's a Zoon van snood. Hey? I got loads of these. I found a load of them around the back of hospital clinic. So I can get these out to you pretty cheaply. About $16.99, shall we say? Euros. Right, so I'm just going to reiterate that there are 3 free MPFrees here. I'm going to put the link. So this last song is called Teotihuacan, and the field recording is a Mayan flute in the old Mesoamerican ancient city where the pyramids of the sun and moon are. It's called Teotihuacan, and there was a guy playing a Mayan flute in between the pyramids, and what you can hear on the song, on the record, is natural reverb. That's how beautiful it sounded. It was just echoing around all these ancient pyramids, which I'll show you the photograph in a minute as we're playing it. And I wanted to end the album, but it's about separation, and if you go to, I'll put a link in the thread. There's an article on Ransom Note where I go into a bit more detail about the idea of separation in each one of the songs, and I'll post that on the thread for you. So yeah, I wanted to end the album. I'm bringing it all the way back round, and it being a bit more about unity. So Teotihuacan was one of the first civilizations thought to be multi-ethnic rather than people keeping to themselves. This was like that site. Our archaeologists seem to think that everyone's together and multi-ethnic. All right, so let's listen to that song. This is the last song on the album, Teotihuacan. that was my new album. You can support the label and me by buying it. I've put the link in there. You can buy CD, digital or vinyl. Just want to say thank you to people without whom it wouldn't have the album wouldn't have happened, which is Sean and Michaela, Mark Aubrey, Sarah Scott, Anno and Shirley. Without you, wouldn't be able to do it. Love you all though. That was a lot of people watching. Thank you. I wasn't expecting that many. Thanks to Gav and John for supporting this. Okay, so I'll sign off there. All right, bye.